Psalm 23. I have found in my Bible here that since the day that I started preaching, I have preached the 23rd Psalm on 6 different occasions, 6 different times. Now, I tell you that for this reason. Generally, this is not a psalm that I read at a funeral. A lot of times you'll hear Psalm 23 read at a funeral, and appropriately so. But I think that there is so much in this psalm that speaks to us in our everyday life. Yeah. And I have found as I read the 23rd Psalm, there's always something new for me in this psalm. Now, I think you'll agree that among many Christians, the 23rd Psalm is probably one of the most beloved psalms. It's a psalm that everyone recognizes. Yes, it may be from funerals or whatever the case may be, but I want to take a different approach this morning. This psalm, this 23rd Psalm, it tells us many, many different things. In fact, it tells us what God is really like. Yeah. If you do not know God this morning, you can read the 23rd Psalm and you can find so much out about the very character of God. The 23rd Psalm, to me, paints out a picture of what God is like. And the pictures are very visible, and as we read the psalm, we tend to learn a few things about who God really is. Now, I want you to look real quickly before I kind of get into the message and the outline of it, and I just want to give you a little bit of introduction here. Because in the first 3 verses of this psalm, which King David had written, it refers to God as He. I'll tell you why that's important in just a moment. The first 3 verses reference God as He. The Lord is my shepherd. He maketh me to lie down. It says He leadeth me. He restores my soul. So in the first 3 verses of this psalm, we notice that David refers to God as He. When we get to verses 4 and 5, David refers to God as You. In fact, he says, I will not fear, for You are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me. You anoint my head with oil. And then in verse 6, he switches back to the 3rd person, and he says, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now, why do I tell you that? Because the lesson I've learned from this form of speaking, I guess you would say, is that it is good not to talk very long about God without talking to God. It's good to not talk about God without talking actually to God. And we see that here in this psalm. Every Christian is at least what I would call an amateur theologian. That is, they are a person who tries to write their own understanding of who God really is. If we went around the room today, all of you would have your own idea of who God really is. But what I have learned from reading this 23rd Psalm and from King David is that my theology has to be woven in with prayer. And we can't separate the two. And the 23rd Psalm is a great prayer in the Bible. And in fact, I also learned that I should frequently interrupt my talking about God to talking with God. And so if there's a lesson that we all can learn from this 23rd Psalm, I think that it would be that. Now let's get into this morning, because there's a couple things that I want us to begin to understand. And listen, the more that you understand God, the easier it is to trust God. Right. You've heard those terms. You need to trust God. You need to depend upon God. You need to rely upon God. And those things are all true. But listen, the more we understand who God is, and we understand that from this 23rd Psalm, the easier it is to trust God. Now, David begins in this psalm by talking about something I think all of us are probably at least a little bit familiar with. Everybody would be able to raise their hand and say, I can identify with exactly what you're talking about. And that's this issue of worry. When people are worried, what do they generally do? A pastor may say, read the 23rd Psalm. Why? Because it tells us something about worry. I will never forget the time that I was sitting in a doctor's office. I was there just for a yearly physical, and as I was sitting there, I struck up a conversation with a guy that was sitting next to me because he looked very nervous and he looked very scared. And I just asked if he was, doing okay. And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm fine. I don't have anything to worry about. He said, whatever happens, happens. It's all good. And I said, well, you just seem like you're a little agitated today. He said, man, I'm really worried about what these test results are going to be. And as I thought about that, it just reminded me, we may say that we don't worry, but the truth is we all have something that we can worry about. I'm going to ask you this morning to do something very specific. I'm going to ask you to identify that one big thing in your life that has you worried right now. And as we look at this psalm, hopefully that will help us. I realize, because I am your pastor, and I know many of you very personally, that there are some people in here today that are worried about their finances. There's a couple in here that I know is worried about their employment. Others are worried about their relationships. We have folks in our church that are worried about their marriages. And we have many that are worried about the path that their children are taking. Now I tell you that because you're in good company today. You are around a bunch of worriers. You're around people that knows what it means to actually worry.
Amen.
But can I begin by just saying there's some problems with this whole issue of worry? I would tell you that worrying is unhelpful. Worrying is unreasonable. And did you know that worrying is even unhealthy? It's always been amazing to me. The only thing that worries in all of God's creation is human beings. We're it. Your dog don't worry about whether or not you're coming home or not. He's just happy when you get there. He's happy when you leave. He don't care. That cat doesn't care one way or another. No worries there. Here's what worry will do. Worry will not only drain you physically, but worry as a Christian will drain you spiritually. And when we read this 23rd Psalm, we find ourselves asking the question, am I that person that lives a life of worry? I want you to imagine today that you go into a gas station and your car won't run. You're pushing the car there to the service station. You don't have a battery in your car. The car has 4 flat tires. Oh, by the way, there's a hole in your gas tank. And all the wiring has been disconnected. So the mechanic comes out to you and he says, it looks like you got a mess. May I help you? And you say to that man, absolutely, fill her up. Now what do you think that mechanic would say to you? I think he would say, what for? What do you want me to fill this car up? Do you realize you have 4 flat tires? You don't have a battery? All the wiring has been stripped out. There's a hole in your gas tank. I think that would be a very appropriate thing for a mechanic to say to you if you took a car to him in that condition. Yeah. But I also think sometimes when we pray and we talk to God about the problems in our life, and we're asking God for something, that God could say to us, what for? We're so stressed out and we bring our broken lives to God and we say, God, I'm here today, I just need you to fill her up. And maybe God can look at us and God could say, why? Why would I fill her up? I mean, you enjoy this drama in your life. Actually, God could say, I think you kind of like the way that things are in your life. I don't think you're capable of seeing past this valley that you're in. And God could say to us, listen, do you not realize there's a hole in your spiritual gas tank? You want me to fill you up, but you're just constantly being drained. Well, I tell you that story because worry is the hole in your spiritual gas tank.
Right.
Worry is what will drain us as a Christian. The old English word for worry is to strain the Lord to choke, and that's what worry does. It strains us, chokes us. My question to you today as we get ready to get into this psalm, this 23rd psalm, is what would be our antidote to worry? Well, the answer is real simple. Believe that God is going to take care of us. Because if we truly believe that, guess what happens? The worry goes away. Now, I want you to look back at verse 1 as we get into this psalm today. Psalm 23, verse 1. And you'll notice it says, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. You see, if I believe that God is going to take care of me, what do I have to worry about?
That's right.
Let me say that one more time. If I truly believe God's going to take care of the situations in my life, what is there for me to worry about? If I let God be the shepherd of my life, that's my antidote to worry.
Right.
You know what shepherds do? It's very interesting when you study a passage like this to understand if David is calling God the shepherd, to understand what a shepherd will do. Well, there's 4 specific things. A shepherd always provides. What do I mean? He provides their food. He provides their basic necessities. And God is our shepherd. God wants to provide those basic necessities for us. And so if I'm trusting God to do that, what do I have to worry about? A shepherd protects. They defend against the enemy. If God is my defender, then what do I have to worry about? A shepherd guides. Leads the sheep along the way. And if I, as a Christian, am trusting God to lead me in this path of life, what is there left to worry about? But the 4th thing is a shepherd corrects. Now, most of us like the fact that God will provide for us. We love the fact that God will protect us. And we want God to guide us. But when we get to this other one where God actually corrects us, well, that's also part of the shepherd.
All right.
They start to get off track, guess what the shepherd will do? He'll take that shepherding staff and he'll pull them right back on and try to lead them in the right way.
Yeah.
Now the amazing thing is this. God has promised us to do all of those things in our life.
Yeah.
But we have to trust Him first. That's where the difficult part comes in. God says, I'll provide for you, I'll protect you, I'll guide you, and I'll also correct you. Can I share a passage out of Isaiah with you real quick? In fact, I want you to turn there, Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 11. I want you to mark this down in your Bible because this is a promise that we see here. It simply says this: He shall feed His flock like a shepherd. This is talking about God to His people.
Amen.
He shall gather the lambs with His arms and carry them into His bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. It's that picture of a shepherd doing what he needs to do for the sheep.
That's right.
Now when we come to the New Testament, in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 19, we even get a more specific view of what God will do as our shepherd. It says, but God shall supply all of your needs according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Do you see why I say that we really have no reason to worry? Oh, now I will say there's a difference between our needs and our wants. I understand that, but that's another lesson for another time. I'm telling you this because worry is not only unhelpful, it's unreasonable. It's unhealthy. And you and I need to look at our life and ask a very simple question. What is it that we are worrying about today? I would say most of us have something in our life that's out there in front of us. Maybe you've lived so long you just have the attitude, I don't worry about anything. Whatever happens, happens. Well, good for you, but the rest of us are not there yet. When you worry, here's what we are doing. Listen closely, church. When we worry, we are acting like an atheist. That's exactly what we're doing. Because in essence, what we're saying is, God, you're not going to be able to keep your promise. You're not going to be able to provide for me. You're not going to be able to take care of my needs. And I have nothing left to do other than just to worry. The question we need to ask ourselves today is simply this. As we look at the 23rd Psalm, how can I make God my shepherd? Because that sounds like the shepherd that I want to be part of my life. How can I make God my shepherd? And by the way, God's not the shepherd of everyone. Don't make a mistake in thinking that. He's only the shepherd of those who let Him be their shepherd.
Amen. All right.
3 quick things this morning that I want to show you in this text. If we want God to be our shepherd, it starts with this. Number 1, accepting Jesus as my Lord. Boy, that sounds simple. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, go back to verse 1. The Lord Circle Lord in your Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Now listen to this. The Lord cannot be your shepherd until the shepherd is your Lord. Chew on that for a while. The Lord cannot be your shepherd until the shepherd actually becomes your Lord. The two of those things go together. My question to you is, what does it mean to be Lord? It means to be in control. That's the question I'm asking you this morning. Does God actually have control of your life? Is the Lord in charge of your life? Well, if He is your shepherd, then you can answer yes to that question. In John chapter 10, verse 14, He said, I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of my sheep. John 10:27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. There's three words there that tell us what it means to have Jesus as our Lord. We need to know Him, we need to listen to Him, and we need to follow Him. Now that's a question I'm asking you today. Do you know the Lord? Are you listening to the Lord? And are you following the Lord? That's a question you must be able to answer. Now, here's a very important truth I want all of us to be reminded of. The root behind all of the worry that we have in our life is that we are not in control. You have heard me say that more than one time from this pulpit. We want to be in control of everything in our life. And we're not very good about giving that control to someone else. And so the question that needs to be asked today is, who is in control of your life? It's either you or it's the shepherd. It's either you or it's God. Do you know why God does not just want to be the co-pilot in your life? Because you would crash the plane and you would look at God and blame Him for crashing the plane.
Right.
That's exactly the way that we treat God. We say, God, we want to be in charge, but if anything goes wrong, then we want somebody to be able to blame this whole thing on. I want to tell you, if you are running your own life without God's direction, you ought to be worried today.
Amen.
Because that's a dangerous place for us to be in. I found in my life, most of the things in my life are out of my control. They really honestly are. Most things are out of my control. But if God is running our life, and He's the Lord of our life, and He's the shepherd of our life, then what we're saying is, God, you're in control anyways, and so I'm just here living this life. I'm living it for you, and God, I am on this journey with you. I am accepting Jesus as my Lord, as the one that is in control of my life. Have you answered that question yet? Here's the second thing this morning. We want God to be our shepherd, then we need to begin praying about everything. What I mean by that is praying about all the stuff you generally worry about. Have you noticed about, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year I preach on this subject of worrying? You're supposed to say yes there, by the way. That means you remember that I preach on worry. I do that intentionally because we are people that are prone to worry. Prayer will eliminate a lot of that. And it's interesting that folks sometimes will say it's just so hard to find time to pray. It's amazing. We find time to worry, but we find less time to pray. And if we prayed about all the things that we worried about, then we wouldn't have anything to really worry about because we'd be praying about them and not worrying about them. See the pattern here? Remember this, if you remember nothing else, about this second point. Worry does not change one single thing. Well, maybe your blood pressure or something physical wrong like that. Worrying does not change anything, but prayer can actually change everything.
Amen.
And if we prayed about all the things we worry about, we would have a lot less to worry about. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6, I like what the Apostle Paul says. He says, be careful for nothing. That means worry about nothing. That's good advice. In 1 Peter 5:7, he says, cast all your cares upon me because I care for your soul. The idea here is, God doesn't want us to worry. God wants us to trust. Here's the third thing. How do I make God my shepherd? Well, I have to answer this question. Have I accepted Him as my Lord? And then I begin praying about everything that I'm worrying about. And here's the third thing. We consider one day at a time. This is good practical advice for all of us. In Matthew chapter 6 and verse 34, Jesus said, "Take therefore no thought for the morrow. For the morrow shall take thought for the things in itself." It's a nice way of Jesus telling us not to open up our umbrella until it starts to rain. Don't worry about it raining tomorrow. It's not raining today. Right. You all know those types of individuals that are like that, right? They worry about everything that hasn't even happened yet. If you don't think that's true, just bring up politics sometime, just to your closest friend. I mean, man, the world's going down. There's no good in the world anymore. Everybody's gone crazy. Everybody hates each other. There's no love. Can I just get to the end of the story and tell you what's going to happen? It's all going to burn up, okay? If you really want to know, it's all going to burn up. You don't want to be here when that happens. But we can't worry about some things. We just have to take it one day at a time. When you worry, you don't do anything about yesterday. You don't control tomorrow. You just mess up today. And that's exactly the path that maybe some of us are on. We can't change yesterday. We can't change what's going to happen tomorrow. We're just making our life today miserable, and everybody else that is around us, we're making their life miserable as well. Now, can I be honest this morning? There's not a pill that you can take to stop worrying. Maybe temporarily. When you wake up the next day, that worry is still going to be there. There's not enough seminars that you can listen to that's going to take all the worry out of your life. You can't read books that suddenly worry go away. It's a daily choice. It's an hourly choice. It's a minute-by-minute choice. Let me read to you Psalm 144, verses 1 and 2. This is a reminder that all of us need to be reminded of each and every day. Blessed be the Lord, my strength, which teaches my hands to war and my fingers to fight. Verse 2, my goodness and my fortress, my high tower, my deliverer, my shield, in whom he I will trust, who subdueth my people under me. I ask you a question this morning. I think I presented this question already. What is that one big thing in your life right now that you're worried about? What is it that's just kind of looming over you that you don't want to worry, but you choose to worry? Have you made God, have you made Jesus the Lord of your life? Have you come to the point where you said, you know what, I want him to be my shepherd. I need somebody to provide, protect, somebody that's going to guide, somebody that's going to correct me. And Lord, I want that to be you. That's the antidote to worry. You read all throughout these Psalms as David would write. And here's what you'll find. David may have been confused about many things, but David always knew in whom he believed. David knew in whom he was going to trust. Folks, I want to tell you something. Religion will not get rid of your stress. Religion is not going to help you stop worrying. In fact, it's probably only going to make it worse. So we don't need religion today. We need a relationship with God. Amen. That relationship only comes through Jesus Christ, his Son. And God says, that's why I sent Jesus. You want to worry? Let him do all the worry. How many of you parents have spent those nights where you laid up and worried about your children, maybe grandchildren? Maybe they were sick, and you said to yourself, God, if I could take this from them, I would take it gladly. If I could take this sickness, Lord, I would take every bit of it upon myself so they did not have to suffer. Amen. We don't want our children to worry. Bad things happen to them, what do we try to do? We try to correct them, we try to instruct them, we try to tell them, listen, we've been down this road, we know what's going to happen, will you just please listen to us? And generally they don't. So many times that's God saying to his children, listen, I love you. I want to take this from you. I don't want you to be in this situation, but you've got yourself in this situation. Let me take some of the burden. Let me do the work. I don't know what it is that you're facing today, but there's not a doubt in my mind that many of you here today have something that you're worried about. There's nothing more unbiblical in your life than that one word, work. So here's my question. Can you really give it to God? Can you say, Lord, you're going to be my shepherd, and I'm going to trust you? I want to challenge you to do that this morning. Will you do that? Amen. Let's stand together as we go forward in prayer. Father, thank you today for this opportunity, Lord. Thank you that we do have a good shepherd that we can know personally. Lord, I would pray today that you would speak to each and every one of us that are here. We try to be strong sometimes, and we try to pretend that everything's okay, but deep down inside, there's always things for us to worry about. Lord, it not only drains us physically, but it will drain us spiritually. So God, I would pray today that you would remind us of this very simple truth, and that is we have a shepherd, a good shepherd, and Lord, you want to be our shepherd. Help us to make a commitment today to say, God, I'm done with worry. I can't change anything. Lord, I got to place it in your hands. Whatever it may be, if it's my health, if it's my relationships, if it's my finances, and the list can just go on and on and on. Lord, we all have things to worry about. Satan would love nothing more than for each and every one of us to leave here today depressed about all the things that weigh us down. God, we can't change anything, but we know that you can. So help us to trust you. Help us to make a commitment today to say, Lord, I allow you to be my shepherd. Protect me, provide for me, guide me. Lord, correct me when I need it. Help us to make that commitment today. I pray this in Jesus' name.